Well, what's up boys, welcome back to a new guide. Today we're going to be having a look at PvP, and this is a rather complete guide as we will do Proxy Robo, how to beat it, how to beat Proxy Oracle, and how to play a normal macro game from a very safe Sentry Stalker opener. So welcome to the video and let's get started. I played some games against Skillis yesterday. I asked him to do 3 builds, 1 standard build, 1 Proxy Robo and 1 Proxy Oracle. And I asked him to not tell me which one he was gonna do, so I couldn't blind counter it. I would do the same opening 3 times and just respond to whatever he did. Now, I have to say that in PvP, it's very, very difficult to hold all wins. It's more difficult to hold all wins than to do them yourself. So I also make a lot of mistakes with this. I make mistakes in these games. I make mistakes in my tournament games and my ladder games, and so will you guys. You'll do silly games, but if you want to play standard PvP and you really want to improve in dealing with all-ins and dealing with early game harass, this build order will get you very far, I believe. So let's get into it. Just starts with a standard 16 gateway, so 14 pylon, 16 gateway, 17 gas, 18 gas, and then 19 gateway again. You put 2 chrono boost on your nexus, and you scout with your probe after you build your second gateway. Now, once your first gateway finishes, you start your cybercore, and you get a second pylon, preferably in a position that isn't close to an edge. So you want to get it near your mineral line on the side that isn't near an edge. This is because you want to build your tech here. And in case you get proxy roboed, sometimes they do a double immortal drop. Imagine your robotics facility is over here. It will be way easier to kill for your opponent. So try to build your first pylon on the side that isn't close to an edge. Now, once we scout, and in this case my opponent Skillis doesn't have a second pylon, is proxying something. I believe this is a proxy robo game. I scout around the base, and what I do, I just put a massive shift Q move command to look for a proxy. Now, most likely I'm not going to find it with this probe, but I have another one which can search, and that's this stalker. This one also will be able to spot any close by location. So if it's a close by robotics facility, I will find out. If it's a far away Oracle or a far away Stargate or maybe DT proxy, I will also find out with this probe. So actually forgot to mention what first units we built. The moment our cybercore finishes, so let's get back to that. The moment our cybercore finishes, we start a sentry, a stalker, and a warp gate. Something else to note actually, that after we scout with our probe, we want to continuously have 15 workers on minerals until our gases are full. So you don't leave 16 workers on minerals, because then you can't afford the sentry, the stalker, and the warp gate. Now, after we get the stalker, the sentry, and the warp gate, we go up to 29 out of 31 and get a third pylon. We put 1 chrono boost on the warp gate. Once again, we're scouting here with the probe. And after our sentry stalker, we start stalker. Now, our first stalker will be used to look for close by areas where there might be a proxy robo. So we're looking at the top, this little high ground, any close by areas here, and this area should be covered by the probe in the end, so we'll figure that out as well. After we get our nexus, which is after stalker, we get a nexus. Please note that I'm not continuing probe production. So stalker, nexus, we get a battery, and then we just patrol our probe over here to make sure that we can't get killed by any kind of double adept into our base. Now, after you build your battery, it's time to send out the hallucination. Try to do this as soon as possible, as the hallucination will be able to give you lots of valuable information. If you see no nexus, most likely it's a proxy robo, and you can start preparing for that. If you see a nexus, it can be proxy oracle, it can just be a regular proxy pylon, so just put your 2 stalkers into the main base. Now, in this case, I'm a little slow because I'm tense, so it takes about 15 seconds before I realize that I need to send my hallucination. I'm also busy microing against this. I haven't found this proxy, which is quite unlucky. As you can see, I've checked a very big area, so I'm starting to think probably a proxy oracle somewhere over here or over here, perhaps even over here. It's all still possible. I'm not really thinking about proxy robo at this point anymore. By the way, after you start your battery, get your 2 sentries going. So sentry immediately, then get a pylon, and then get a robotics facility. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do. I get a robotics facility, and then you can continue your worker production again. Now, because I thought it was going to be an Oracle, I left 2 Stalkers in the main base, which is what you want to do against an Oracle, and I moved the rest of my units downstairs, just chilling with the battery. In case his units arrive, I want to be able to protect my battery. And once I see 4 Stalkers, I know that it's most likely not Proxy Oracle. At the same time, I'm seeing a complete lack of the Nexus on the other side of the map, which also means probably not a Proxy Oracle. So right now my head is with Proxy Robo most likely. So I pull my 2 Stalkers down, I warp in 1 Stalker and 1 Zealot, and I add 2 batteries. Ideally I'd not waste 2 force fields to not kill anything as well, but happens to the best. Now I completely cut worker production at 26 workers. That's the maximum I'm gonna go to, and once my Nexus finishes, I pull 2 probes out of the gases in my main, and I worker transfer the workers that were too much in my main base, and I send them to my natural. I keep warping in more units as my money comes in, and the moment my robo finishes, I start an immortal. Now, you see he's trying to do some cute micro, tries to get some kills, but it's not really working out for him. Once these 2 batteries finish, you're basically safe at that point, or well, temporarily safe until more immortals start showing up. But against the 1 immortal, you're safe. Now, at this point, what you want to know is you want to know if he's pushing or if he's going to be sitting back and maybe harassing with a prism going into Disruptor. So I like to remain kind of active. So I'm pushing back and forth, just making sure that I can see where his army is. If you're not confident with that, don't worry about it. Don't do that. Just patrol a probe over here in this area so you can see if there's a prism coming for you. Now, after your first immortal, please note, I'm still not creating any extra probes. Just get your second immortal, and after your second immortal, you get a prism. Continue warping in, and once you start floating some money, at this point, you can add maybe 1 or 2 probes or add another battery if you feel very unsafe. If you're afraid of him expanding behind it, you have a lot of sentries which can be used for hallucination scout over here, so try to do that. You see our opponent is trying to push in, but once you get the 3 batteries, most of the time you're gonna be kinda fine. Like I said, after the immortal, second immortal, I just get the prism, and once you have 2 immortals and a second prism, 2-3 batteries, the game is most of the time decided in your favor. Now, in case you realize he's getting disruptors behind this, so you see there's a lack of extra immortals, add a Stargate as soon as possible and start Phoenix production. Whenever you see the disruptor shoot, pick it up to cancel the Purification Nova. But this is the most optimal way to play reactive based against a robo all-in. Now, it's not easy and you're gonna lose a lot of the time. I lose a lot of the time still with this because you need to play rather well, but it is a reaction with this build that can definitely work if you do it well. So I win the game, and Skillet is about 6'3", 6'4" MMR on the European ladder, just to give you, you know, an estimation of how good he is. It's not like I'm beating up on some noob. This guy is really good. He's probably one of the best Russian players, and yeah, managed to beat him with this reaction. So let's head into the next game where I'll be facing off a Proxy Oracle. Alright boys, welcome back to the second part where we'll learn how to deal with a Proxy Oracle. So then we'll have the most common proxies, and later on we do a fake proxy into a macro game, so I can show you what to do exactly if the game does go longer than the first 5 minutes, which, to be fair, in PvP isn't very common. Now, we can have one more quick look at the build as well. As you can see, get our 16 gate, 17 gas, 18 gas, second gateway at 19. We scout after that, and then we get our cyber core as soon as we can. Second pylon. It's on the wrong location, as you can see. Should be on the inside rather than the outside, but I'll forgive myself for now. I'm not aware what proxy it is, so we're just gonna be looking around with our probe, hopefully find it. Now, in this scenario, I do find it, and usually what I do is I'd probably try and kill the pylon or be a little more aggressive towards it with my stalkers, but because I didn't want to I didn't want to show a reaction where I'd find it. I just pretend like I haven't found it yet. So I go back with my stalkers and I basically just play as normal. I do accidentally build a stalker instead of a sentry. That's good habits die hard. And the goal against Proxy Oracle is to be with 2 stalkers in your main base at around 325 between and 330, something like this. So that's really the sweet timing that you have. Now, the goal also should be to have a battery done already. So you can have 2 stalkers in the main and you can have your 3 sentries and your 1 stalker on the low ground. Sadly, my battery was a little late once again. We all make mistakes. And now you have this rough situation where there's 2 adepts on the low ground and I don't know how to deal with them. He even gets in the main base because I didn't have enough money for a wall. And now it's becoming very difficult. Luckily, because Skillis knew I was trying to make a guide, he decided not to let them finish. But usually this would be game over already. So you can see the build is very tight and you need to do everything correctly in order to win. Now what I like to do once my warp gate finishes, instead of getting adept, I like to get stalker. You add 1 more stalker into the main base. So 3 stalkers in the main, 2 stalkers in the natural together with the 3 sentries and the battery should be good enough for the initial defense. And against this, I like to get forge rather than a robotics facility. So I get a forge and I continue warping in stalkers to deal with whatever the hell it is he might throw at us. Now, Skillis decided to go for a very weird attack, which I've actually had never seen before until this time. And it's with 3 oracles and 6 adepts. So this really is the maximum power attack. Where he's going to try to do as much damage as possible. He's going to try to not even shade into my main, just go straight for my sentries. And here come the 3 oracles. And he should just be focusing down the probes. That's a mistake by him. We should be targeting on the oracles, move down with our stalkers from the main base. If the oracles fly away, go back with the stalkers into the main base. And just target down as many adepts as you can. Now, we lost a lot of workers. That's true. But if we look at his base, we see he only has a robo. He's only up 3 workers. He has no units whatsoever. I mean, 3 adepts left, but those are most likely gonna die. He has how many oracles? Well, actually all of his oracles died, so he has no units left. So even though he will kill, 9 workers, he has no units left, which means he will need to get an immortal very quickly. He will most likely, actually, he's playing very greedy. He should have gotten a battery for safety. And he should have definitely gotten an immortal, because otherwise he might have just died if I would have attacked him. What I do is I believe I get 2 adepts to try and do some damage. That's at least what I should have done. I get a Twilight, and this time I'm going for a +2 timing, because my Forge is so much faster than him, so I get very fast +1. And my goal in life now is going to be to do a timing with +2 attack while he's on +1 attack. And that will be a massive advantage. Archons do a lot of damage with +2 against Zealots. A lot more than they do with +1, I can guarantee you that. So against Proxy Stargate, also what I like to do is to not get any immortals. So even if I would have a robo, I prefer not getting immortals and getting more Archons and Zealots. I do the same thing against Phoenix as I do against Oracle, just kind of cut out the immortal, as I don't find them too useful if they have Phoenixes out, and because they invest so much gas into their early Stargate and Oracles, usually they already have Archons, less Archons than you, and if you have like 2-3 more Archons than your opponent, you'll absolutely destroy them, especially if they do build Immortals. As you can see, he has basically no units whatsoever to tank for these Immortals, so if you get a lot of Zealots on top of him, Immortals are kind of bad. Immortals are good against Archons, but not that great against Zealots. Archons are way better against Zealots, so in that case, against that Proxy Stargate, or against any Stargate in general, I'd always recommend going for those Zealots and Archons, and not so much those Immortals. Now, like I said, we're aiming for a +2 attack, and we're going with 8 gates. As always in PvP, you stop at 44 or 45 probes, get 8 gates, get your upgrades going, Templar Archives, then you take a 3rd base. And then if you're safe to probe up, then you probe up. But you shouldn't probe up if you don't feel safe at all. Now, there's a couple of maps in this current map pool, like Simaluk Room, and this map to a certain extent, where defending the ramps is very easy. And thus it makes it a lot easier to probe up, but still be very careful, as if you make 4 or 5 too many probes, that can mean the end of you. As you can see, both of us going up to 8 gates. getting that Nexus. He's gonna harass me with 2 Immortals. Meanwhile, I'm still setting up for that +2 timing. And I'm moving out. It's a very unfortunate timing for me to move out, actually, as you can see, because he's just flying in with his Prism, going for my pylon. I'm like, dang it, should be going back. So I send four Stalkers into my main, and I warp in 2 Zealots as well, so in case he decides to fly into my main, I will have something ready for him. Meanwhile, my Prism's still on the other side of the map. I was thinking maybe I can do an Archon drop, but then I got spotted, so I decided not to go there. I managed to kind of chase him out. And he isn't starting his +2, which is weird to see, but I'm still with my mind at the +2 timing. I'm like, I think I still have a window, so I'm gonna move forward. And I realize that I'm quite far ahead at this point, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna completely A move, as this ramp can be very difficult to attack up to. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna force out batteries, clear this watchtower, get +3 going, so maybe I can attack with +3, get a +3 timing once again. Always attack if you have an upgrade lead, or if an upgrade finishes and you have an army lead. So I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna force out some batteries, he'll have to delay his gas, and I get +3 in the background. If he walks down this ramp, I can take a good fight there, so he can't really chase me. Maybe I can do some harassment into his natural, I decided as well. And as I say all these smart things, I walk up the ramp. And here I should definitely realize that this is not the play into the batteries. I really thought I moved back here, but I guess I kill a couple of Archons first, which is also fine. See, this is the... It's actually funny, because in my head, this kind of was a bad play as I was watching it, but now it kind of works out for me in the game. And that's the funny thing about PvP. Sometimes the killer instinct is very necessary, apparently. So I get a lot of damage done. But in the end, the fight actually isn't that good for me. I forced some batteries, but worker count is even. The only nice thing is the things that I mentioned before, is where I'm getting an upgrade lead right now, and I should have definitely cleared this watchtower already. So both of us are now deciding to probe up. I can keep him busy with this Prism on his side of the map, so that's a big advantage. If I had full vision, basically whenever he would move out, he would need to leave at least 6 units into his bases. So 3 units here, 3 units here, just to deal with this Prism. So when I see him move out, I will lose 1 unit for free, but he has 12 supply here. And then the moment he's about to attack into me, I can just recall my Prism, and all of a sudden I'm up 10, 12 supply for no reason. That's why having a Prism on your opponent's side of the map is very important in PvP. So at this point I'm like, you know what, I'm just waiting till I get +3, try to do some harassment at the same time. As long as he can't kill me, I will never lose this game, because I kept clicking his upgrade and seeing the +1, and I was like, you know what, this should be completely fine. So this move out is just to catch the units that are here. I don't really want to fight in the middle of the map. I want to fight in a defensive position, because I'm about to get a massive lead against him. He doesn't have gases. I get gases on my 3rd base, which this is one of those things that you only get gases once you feel safe. Don't get gases before that. And I know the moment he moves out, he needs to leave units at home, so I should be harassing a little bit in this 3rd base. Sadly, I'm not doing that. I'm getting my +3, and I'm really trying to hit a very tight +3 timing. I see that there's no gas, so I don't really need to attack, but I also see he's lacking upgrades, and I don't want the upgrade difference to get a lot closer here. I decided to keep this one alive because he helped me earlier on by not shading in with the 2 adepts. So I'm just trying to harass a little bit, try to get out on the map safely, and just get hit a timing onto him basically with +3. So I send a couple of zealots into his natural base. Now this kind of move is really risky, and you should only do it if you really know what you're doing. So I know I can't fight up here. This was just to secure the run by into here, and to secure the warp into his 3rd base. And you just kind of keep pressuring different angles. So right now I'm pressuring a little bit here a little bit, and pressuring straight into his 3rd with a lot of units and with a massive supply advantage. So from here on out I can pick up these 2 Archons, go into the main base, get another warp in there as well, which is what I should be doing, I guess, most likely. But I get so much damage here that I don't really need to attack into him anymore even. in theory, what I can do is I can just kind of wait down this ramp, move here with the Archon and get my own fort base. So whenever you have a lead in PvP, most of the time it's best to be on the map and putting pressure on your opponent to ensure that you can keep the lead. Force him into bad engagement like this. This is a desperation attack. He's like, dang it, I'm down 2 upgrades. He is up 20 workers probably at this point, and I mean, it's absolutely no chance for him. Just gets completely destroyed. So yeah, that will be it for the Proxy Oracle. And let's head into the macro game now. Even though this also kind of was a macro game. See you there. So we're gonna go over the early game build order one more time. 14 pylon, 16 gate, 17 gas, 18 gas, 19 gate, second chrono boost on the Nexus. Keep 15 workers on your minerals like I mentioned before. And Cybercore once gateway finishes. Second pylon on this side. Once again, the edge is here. And that's basically it. Now, we scout. What do we see? Ooh, this looks weird. Wonder what he's doing. Probably a proxy. So we're gonna look for the proxy. Continue building probes, warp gate, stalker, sentry. Big shift queue. Looking for that proxy, indeed. Here we have a pylon going up on the low ground. 2 more stalkers on the way. Stop probe production once you're at 33 supply. Nexus, battery, patrolled over here and start your hallucination. Oh, now this actually is a very cute one. So he proxies a pylon, but doesn't actually use it for anything. So here I am with my tight reaction against proxies. And this is one of the things where like, you really feel cheated after this. But the lead that he gets from this actually isn't that big. Sure, there's a small lead and it's annoying, but I just want to show you that's completely possible to play even from slightly behind with this. As long as you play well, you have a good plan as a follow-up. So this will be, I guess, the macro game then. We have the battery, and once we scout with this hallucination, ideally what we do is we'd cancel the battery. We see a very fast Nexus, and you still have about 4 or 5 seconds to cancel this battery. Now, sadly, my brain isn't quite as fast as the brain that you guys have. You know, I've been dropped a couple too many times as a kid, so I'm not in time with canceling this battery, but ideally you do that. I still do the same build exactly, but the difference is the moment I scout a Nexus, I continue worker production and I start chronoing worker production as well. I scout with the hallucination. I see that his robo is slightly later than mine. You can fake a move out across the map. I like to send 2 adepts immediately, and I think I fake a move out here as well. So I know that he's gonna scout me with hallucination, so I just move out, maybe force a battery or something like that, or maybe scare him into not chrono boosting his Nexus, but he doesn't seem very afraid at all. Builds a single battery. But the one thing I do like to do, if it's a macro game, against my with my first warp in, is to warp in 2 adepts, run across the map, and then do moves like this. So you scout with the hallucination, and you try to shade into the main base, and get as many probe kills as possible. Now you see my opponent, he's a good player, he tries to do the exact same thing. So it's a little bit of a dance between the adepts and the main army. Both players usually do it. Now, the rest of my follow-up is, because I'm trying to play a macro game, I'll make a forge, I'll build a Twilight Council, and I'll get Immortals. Now, my goal in this game is to get 2 Immortals, put them in a Prism, and just harass him as much as possible. Just absolutely destroy him with Prism Harass. That's really the only goal I have in this game. So I tried doing some damage with my Adepts. It didn't really work. I have 2 more Adepts that I'm going to send around. I wouldn't suggest continuously building Adepts. You don't want to build like 10 Adepts, but 2 to 4 Adepts usually is enough to get some damage done, especially in combination with 2 Immortals in a Prism. Now, in PvP, the thing you want to do is you want to go up to 8 gates, you want to get charge, you want to get +1, and then you get a 3rd base, and then you stop worker production practically. And from there on out, you're in a PvP macro game. There's no real thing like a PvP macro game, as you're always pushing each other, you're always trying to kill each other. But that's the closest you're gonna get to a macro game, quite honestly. So we have another go. Oh, accidentally hit the wrong button. We're gonna have another go at some Adept Harass while we get our Prism, I hope. and we have our second immortal. So this one does get in with the adept, and we kill 4 or 5 workers. Now that puts us in a good little spot. Of course, the earlier you kill your opponent's worker, the better it is. So, like I said, 2 immortals, both for safety and for harassment. Then we cut workers completely at 45. We go up to 8 gateways. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We get our +1, we get our charge, and we get our Templar archives. And then we just kind of sit around for a bit until we have money to build a 3rd base. Try to not build workers during this time, as workers are kind of useless in PvP. Usually the guy with more workers in PvP is the guy losing, because the other guy has more units. And there's no real defender's advantage. I'm a little slow at killing that pylon. You don't necessarily need to do this in PvP. You don't need to do harassment, but I like to do harassment with 2 immortals. Does a lot of damage. Of course, don't do this if they have 5 phoenixes on the map or if they have blink. But in a robo versus robo scenario, it's a good move to do. Now, you see he's producing some workers, which is a little bit risky. I'm not producing any workers, just 1 or 2 at a time, because I'm very afraid of everything that can happen to me. I have a stalker on the map. It's for vision to see when he moves out, because the rest in PvP it's very difficult to get vision on the map. You see my vision is very poor, but so is his. He has absolutely no vision except with this hallucination and this one. So just trying to do some damage with these 2 immortals. Now at this point I've done quite some damage with my immortals. You see units lost is definitely in my favor, so I'm starting to get kind of confident that I can stop a push by him if he decides to push out. So I start building some extra workers while chrono boosting my +2 upgrade. In my mind, I'm just gonna hit him with a good +2 timing, maybe do some more harass with this prism, or if he attacks into me, just try to defend. But you see how careful both of us are at probing up. He's up to 56 right now. I'm still at 51 because I'm extremely afraid of any kind of push that he can do, and I maybe want to put on some pressure myself. So I push across the map. I'm not sure what I was thinking here, but probably nothing too brilliant. I was just like, you know what? Let me fake push across the map, warp into his main base, and then snipe an important building. So I drop my 2 immortals, and I right-click this forge. Sadly, his +2 already finished, so it's not that big of a deal. If I snipe his +2 before it finishes, I probably would have a very good +2 timing. The thing in PvP is you always want to fight just after one of your upgrade finishes. So you can have a +1 timing, a +2 timing, or a +3 timing. That's kind of the things you want to be going for. You don't just want to willy-nilly attack whenever you feel like it, unless you have a massive army advantage. Sometimes it's okay, but most of the time you want to go when an upgrade finishes. Now, this is the kind of harass that's really difficult to deal with for Protoss, because unless you build a Stargate, we don't really have anything to deal with an idling prism. So this is another reason why having a unit on the map here is very good. Whenever I see him move out, I might lose this unit, but I can immediately move in with my prism, do some damage, maybe kill this pylon, maybe kill 2 or 3 workers over here. Now, see a little spot, I go in, and at the same time I'm pushing forward with my main army. And this is very difficult to learn, but this is the kind of killer instinct that's very important in PvP, is to realize when you're winning, when you're ahead, when you can kill someone. And here I was like, hey, I think I can force units into the main base and then come from behind with my prism. Then you have like maybe 6-7 zealots in the main. I have slightly higher supply as well. I can send 1 or 2 zealots in here too, if I truly would want to do this well. And then I can just kind of kill him. So I see a bunch of zealots here. I still see the prism here. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna jump on top of him. I drop the immortals in the back, get a warp in, and bam, just like that, you win the game. So in PvP, a lot of the game really is centered around the early game. So that's why it's so important to have a solid early game opener like this one, where you can always go into a normal macro game most of the time while being ahead, because you can properly respond to everything your opponent does. All right, boys, that's gonna be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did and it helped you, feel free to like, feel free to comment. If you have any questions, also leave them in the comments down below, and please subscribe, as that directly helps me. And I'll see you boys next time, I guess. Bye bye.